There are conversations that are never spoken out loud, quietly existing inside some of the most intelligent people you may ever meet. They carry those thoughts through life, like a hidden part of their inner world. Something that cannot easily be shared with anyone around them. Not because they lack the ability to express themselves, not because they do not have the words to describe what they feel, but because the older they become, the more they realize that certain thoughts, once spoken aloud, instantly create distance between them and the rest of the world. And that is exactly where we are going today. Not into the achievements people admire, not into the success, habits repeated so many times, they no longer feel personal, and not even into the familiar struggles everyone assumes they already understand. We are going somewhere deeper than that, into the quietest part of the minds of high IQ individuals, into the thoughts they hide behind calm expressions, logic, and self-control. Because behind intelligence is not only a different way of thinking, but also a very unique psychological experience, the feeling of constantly living between what they can see and what they already know. Most people around them may never truly understand. This is not only about intelligence. It is also about the difficult feeling of experiencing the world in a way that is fundamentally different from almost everyone around you. For decades, researchers in cognitive psychology have noticed a repeating pattern among highly intelligent individuals. They often live with a quiet but persistent sense that their way of seeing life, people, and situations is built on an entirely different structure from the majority of others. Not necessarily superior, just deeper, more layered, and far more interconnected. While most people see isolated events, they instinctively see chains of causes, consequences, and hidden possibilities silently unfolding beneath the surface. And this is where a thought emerges that they almost never say out loud. I can already see where this is heading, but I do not know how to explain it without sounding arrogant. That single thought alone is enough to silence countless conversations before they even begin, because when your mind naturally connects dots that others have not yet noticed, you slowly learn that some things become harder to explain, the clearer they seem to you. And so, many intelligent people choose silence, not because they have nothing to say, but because they have become deeply familiar with the feeling of being misunderstood whenever they try to describe how their mind actually works. When someone walks into a conversation and almost immediately sees where everything is likely to go several steps ahead, they often find themselves in a deeply uncomfortable social position, because there is no truly natural way to say that you already see something others have not yet realized. And that is why many high IQ individuals learn the habit of silence very early in life. Not because they are cold or uninterested, but because they understand that expressing their thoughts often creates more resistance than understanding. Psychologyexplained, who spent much of his life studying exceptional minds, observed that highly intelligent people often live with an invisible tension between their inner world and the social environments around them. Inside them exists a dense landscape of layered thoughts, multidimensional connections, and vast mental maps that most people never fully see. But the problem is this: translating all of that depth into ordinary conversation can sometimes feel almost impossible, and then another thought quietly appears, one they almost never explain to anyone. I am not bored, I am just waiting. From the outside, they may seem distracted, distant, or mentally absent from the room, but in reality, the many times they are simply waiting for the conversation to reach a deeper level, a place their mind had already arrived at long before everyone else. And because no one can see that internal process happening inside them, their silence is often mistaken for indifference, when the truth is often the complete opposite. But what is actually happening inside the brains of these individuals is far more complex than what others can see from the outside. Even in moments when they appear silent, still, or mentally disconnected from the present, their minds are often operating continuously at a much deeper level. The prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for complex reasoning, prediction, and future modeling continues, processing information quietly beneath that calm exterior. They are not truly absent from the conversation. Their minds have simply moved far beyond the surface of what is being said. And over time, they learn something very important. Most of that deep internal processing is invisible. Other people cannot see the connections forming inside their minds, nor can they feel the speed at which their brain is analyzing everything. And so, many high IQ individuals slowly stop trying to explain themselves. They allow others to assume they are distracted, distant, or uninterested. Because explaining the full depth of their inner world can sometimes feel even more exhausting than remaining silent. Now pause for a moment and think about this. Have you ever sat in a room full of people and felt as though you were seeing the entire situation from a completely different angle, as if the conversation happening around you was only touching the surface, while your mind had already drifted toward deeper layers of meaning beneath it? If that feeling sounds familiar, then you may understand at least part of what highly intelligent people experience, because for them, the sensation of being out of sync with the environment around them is not something occasional. It is almost the default state they quietly live with every single day. And there is a thought many intelligent people carry with them for years, yet rarely feel comfortable enough to say out loud, "I wish I could make my mind go quiet sometimes." Because this is the part almost no one talks about when discussing intelligence. People often focus on analytical ability, creativity, or exceptional thinking. But very few talk about the psychological cost of having a brain that almost never truly stops. The ability to recognize patterns, connect details, and constantly analyze the world is exactly what makes these minds extraordinary. But the paradox is that the same ability also makes rest far more difficult. Neuroscience research suggests that highly intelligent brains tend to have stronger neural connectivity, meaning multiple regions of the brain are active simultaneously at higher intensity. While most people can temporarily switch off their thoughts after a long day, these minds often continue processing, connecting ideas, and exploring possibilities even during moments meant for rest. And that is why there is a deeply honest truth that rarely appears in ordinary conversations. Being this aware is exhausting. Not in a dramatic way, and not as a plea for sympathy. Just a quiet form of exhaustion that comes from having a mind operating at high intensity for far too long. But because that feeling is difficult to explain to people who have never experienced it, many high IQ individuals learn to keep it to themselves. They continue living normally, continue thinking, continue analyzing everything around them, while internally, their minds have almost never truly known silence. And perhaps there is another silent thought that runs even deeper than all the others, a thought that is rarely spoken aloud, yet quietly lives inside many highly intelligent people. I'm not sure anyone truly understands me. On the surface, it sounds simple, but behind those words exists a kind of loneliness that is difficult to describe, because most of the time, they are not seen as complete human beings. They are seen as the intelligent one, the rational one, the person who always has the answers, and over time, that label slowly becomes the very thing that hides the rest of who they are. People may admire their intelligence, seek their advice, or assume they are always emotionally strong simply because they are too smart to fall apart. But very few stop to ask what fears exist beneath that composed exterior, what doubts quietly live inside them, or what emotional needs have never been expressed. Social psychology describes this as the visibility paradox, the idea that the more someone is recognized for one outstanding trait, the more invisible they may feel in every other part of themselves. For highly intelligent individuals, this often happens in a very quiet way. Constantly being valued for their intelligence slowly creates the feeling that the only thing others truly notice about them is their mind. Meanwhile, the softer, more vulnerable, the more emotionally complex parts of who they are seem to remain untouched and unseen. And they rarely speak about this openly, because admitting that they also want to be understood, emotionally connected, or seen beyond their intelligence, requires exposing a deep vulnerability inside themselves. And for many intelligent people, vulnerability has never felt like a safe thing to reveal. So after all of this, what are we truly seeing? Perhaps the most important realization is this: intelligence, at its deepest level, has never been only about thinking faster or analyzing better. It is also a deeply personal, emotional, and social experience. A way of existing in which the mind constantly sees more than can easily be expressed. A quiet, ongoing negotiation between the inner world and the outer world, between what a person genuinely perceives and what they believe others are ready, or even able, to understand, and the thoughts many high IQ individuals quietly carry inside themselves. I can already see where this is going. I wish my mind could be quiet for a while. Or I do not think anyone truly sees who I am, or often misunderstood as arrogance, emotional distance, or detachment. But most of the time, it is not superiority at all. It is simply the experience of having a mind operating at a depth that most social environments were never truly designed to resonate with. And perhaps the deepest lesson here is not even about intelligence itself. It is about the silent gap between what people truly think and what they feel safe enough to say out loud. That gap exists in all of us. Some people hide fear. Some hide loneliness. Others hide thoughts. They believe no one would understand. And sometimes, the ability to recognize that hidden distance, both in ourselves and in other people, without judgment or quick conclusions, may be one of the most profound and human forms of intelligence we can ever possess. In the end, perhaps intelligence is not only about seeing more than others, but also about learning how to live with what you see. Some people carry thoughts too deep to easily express, and sometimes what they truly need is not admiration, but genuine understanding. Personally, I believe everyone has an inner world they have never fully revealed. And maybe what truly connects us is not similarity, but the feeling of being seen for who we really are. Have you ever felt out of sync with the people around you? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below.